Brothers and sisters, listen closely, because what I'm about to say may shake the very foundation of how you've been praying, believing, and waiting on God. For too long, many have cried out, "Lord, give me money. Lord, send me provision." Yet heaven remains silent, not because God doesn't hear, but because we've been asking the wrong way. God is not a bank, and prayer is not a transaction. You don't beg your way into abundance, you align your way into it. There is a divine order, a kingdom principle, a hidden flow that releases provision, and most people never tap into it because they're stuck repeating desperate prayers instead of activating powerful obedience. I need you to feel this urgency in your spirit, because your breakthrough is not delayed, it's waiting on your alignment. Heaven has already released what you're asking for, but it's locked behind actions, mindset, and spiritual positioning that most believers ignore. Stop praying for money like it's outside of you, and start stepping into what God has already placed within you. There is a shift required, one that moves you from begging to becoming, from lack to authority, from hoping to knowing. Tonight, something must change. Your mindset must rise, your faith must activate, and your actions must line up with divine principles, because when you do what God requires, provision doesn't chase you, it finds you. Shift your mindset from lack to abundance, because everything begins in the mind before it ever manifests in your life. Many people are stuck not because God has withheld anything from them, because they have trained their thinking to expect less, fear loss, and anticipate struggle. When your mind is conditioned to lack, even when opportunities come, you either don't see them or you sabotage them. You start believing that money is hard to get, that success is for others, that breakthrough is rare, and without realizing it, you create a mental barrier that blocks the very blessings you are praying for. A mindset of lack focuses on what is missing. It constantly says, "I don't have enough, I can't afford it, things never work out for me." These thoughts may seem small, but they carry spiritual weight. What you repeatedly think begins to shape what you believe, and what you believe begins to shape what you attract. If your inner conversation is filled with fear and limitation, your outer reality will reflect the same pattern. You cannot expect overflow while constantly entertaining thoughts of scarcity. An abundant mindset, on the other hand, is rooted in trust, vision, and expectation. It says, "There is more than enough. Opportunities are coming. I am equipped for increase." This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to see beyond it. It means understanding that your current situation is not your final destination. When you begin to think from abundance, you start to recognize possibilities where you once saw problems. You become open to ideas, connections, and strategies that were always available but previously invisible to you. God has already placed seeds of greatness, creativity, and provision inside you. But seeds require the right environment to grow, and your mindset is that environment. If your thinking is filled with doubt and negativity, those seeds remain dormant. When you shift your thinking to abundance, you create the conditions for those seeds to grow and produce results. This is why transformation always begins within before it shows up around you. You must become intentional about what you allow into your mind. Every word you speak, every thought you entertain, every belief you hold is either reinforcing lack or building abundance. You cannot continue to speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot dwell on fear and expect faith to rise. Your words must align with where you are going, not where you are. Even when your circumstances look challenging, your language must reflect confidence, expectation, and trust in what is possible. An abundant mindset also changes how you respond to opportunities. Instead of shrinking back in fear, you step forward in faith. Instead of saying, "What if I fail?" you begin to ask, "What if this works?" This shift may seem simple, but it has the power to open doors you never imagined. People who think abundantly are not necessarily more talented or more fortunate. They have simply trained themselves to see and seize opportunities. Gratitude plays a powerful role in this transformation. When you focus on what you already have, you begin to attract more. Gratitude shifts your attention from lack to provision. It reminds you that even in small ways you are already blessed. This awareness strengthens your faith and positions you to receive even greater things. Complaining, on the other hand, keeps you stuck in a cycle of lack because it reinforces the idea that nothing is working. You must also be willing to let go of limiting beliefs that have been shaped by past experiences, upbringing, or societal conditioning. Many people were taught, directly or indirectly, that wealth is unattainable, that success is reserved for a select few, or that struggling is normal. These beliefs may feel true because they have been repeated for so long, but they are not absolute. They are patterns that can be broken and replaced with new, empowering beliefs. Surrounding yourself with the right influences is another key part of this shift. The people you listen to, the content you consume, and the environment you stay in all contribute to your mindset. If you are constantly exposed to negativity, doubt, and fear, it becomes difficult to think abundantly. But when you intentionally surround yourself with encouragement, wisdom, and growth-focused individuals, your thinking begins to elevate. An abundant mindset also requires responsibility. It moves you from a victim mentality to a position of ownership. Instead of blaming circumstances, you begin to ask, what can I do differently? This question alone can change the direction of your life because it shifts your focus from what is happening to you to what you can create. You begin to realize that while you may not control everything, you do have the power to make choices that lead to growth and progress. This shift is not something that happens overnight. It requires consistency, awareness, and effort. You will need to catch yourself when old patterns of thinking try to return. You will need to intentionally replace negative thoughts with positive, empowering ones. Over time, these new patterns become natural and your default way of thinking begins to change. As your mindset shifts, your actions will follow. You will start making decisions that align with growth, taking steps that lead to progress, and positioning yourself for opportunities that once felt out of reach. And as your actions change, your results will begin to reflect the transformation that started within you. Stop begging. Start aligning with God's principles, because there is a difference between desperation and divine order. Many people approach God with a mindset of pleading, as if they are trying to convince him to release something he is holding back. They pray from a place of fear, repeating the same requests over and over, hoping that persistence alone will unlock provision. But God is not withholding blessings waiting to be persuaded. He has already established principles that govern how those blessings flow. When you ignore those principles and rely only on emotional prayers, you create frustration instead of results. Begging comes from a mindset that believes you are empty, powerless, and disconnected. It says, I don't have, I can't, I need someone to rescue me. This posture weakens your authority and keeps you stuck in cycles of dependency. Alignment, on the other hand, is rooted in understanding that God has already given you access, ability, and responsibility. It says, I am positioned, I am equipped, I am ready to walk in what has been prepared for me. This shift changes everything because it moves you from a place of waiting to a place of activating. God's principles are not random. They are consistent, predictable, and proven. Just like natural laws govern the physical world, spiritual principles govern the flow of provision, increase, and opportunity. You cannot ignore these principles and expect different results. For example, the principle of sowing and reaping is not just about money. It's about everything. What you invest, whether it's time, effort, or resources, determines what you receive. If you sow nothing, you cannot expect a harvest. If you sow inconsistently, your results will reflect that inconsistency. Alignment requires action. It means you don't just pray for opportunities, you prepare for them. You don't just ask for increase, you develop the discipline to handle it. You don't just desire change, you make decisions that reflect that desire. When your actions line up with your prayers, something powerful begins to happen. You move from hoping things will change to becoming the reason they change. Many people struggle financially not because they lack faith, but because they lack alignment. They may pray daily, but their habits contradict their prayers. They ask for abundance, but manage poorly what they already have. They seek growth, but avoid responsibility. This disconnect creates a blockage, not because God is unwilling, but because the system is out of order. Alignment restores that order and allows the flow to begin. You must understand that alignment is not about perfection, it's about direction. It's about consistently choosing to move in a way that reflects God's principles, even when it's uncomfortable. It may require you to change how you spend, how you think, how you speak, and how you respond to challenges. These changes are not always easy, but they are necessary if you want to experience a different outcome. Faith plays a critical role in this process. but not the kind of faith that is passive and waiting. This is active faith, the kind that moves, builds, creates, and responds. It's the kind of faith that says, I trust God enough to take action. When you operate in this kind of faith, your life begins to reflect what you believe. Your decisions become intentional, your efforts become focused, and your results become measurable. Alignment also brings clarity. When you are aligned, you begin to see things differently. You recognize opportunities that you once overlooked. You make better decisions because your thinking is guided by principles rather than emotions. You stop reacting to every situation and start responding with wisdom. This clarity allows you to move with confidence instead of confusion. Another important aspect of alignment is consistency. One good decision is not enough. One moment of discipline is not enough. You must build patterns that reinforce the direction you are moving in. Consistency turns small actions into significant results. It's not what you do occasionally that changes your life, it's what you do repeatedly. You must also be willing to release old habits that keep you out of alignment. This includes negative thinking, poor financial decisions, lack of discipline, and avoidance of responsibility. These habits may feel comfortable because they are familiar, but they are costly because they keep you stuck. Letting them go creates space for new patterns that support growth and increase. Alignment positions you for increase because it demonstrates readiness. When you are aligned, you are not just asking for more, you are becoming capable of handling more. This is important because increase without capacity leads to loss. But when your mindset, habits, and actions are aligned, you create the structure needed to sustain what you receive. You also begin to experience a sense of peace and confidence when you are aligned. You are no longer anxious or desperate because you understand how things work. You trust the process because you are actively participating in it. This confidence strengthens your faith and keeps you moving forward even when results are not immediate. Stop measuring your progress only by what you see externally. Alignment often begins internally, and the external results follow over time. You may not see immediate changes, but every aligned action is building momentum. Every disciplined decision is moving you closer to your desired outcome. This is why patience is important, not passive waiting, but persistent action with trust in the process. When you stop begging and start aligning, your relationship with God shifts. You no longer approach Him from a place of desperation, but from a place of partnership. You begin to understand that you have a role to play, and when you fulfill that role, things begin to move in your favor. You become more aware, more intentional, and more focused on living in a way that reflects the principles that produce results. Money follows purpose, not desperation. And this truth reshapes everything about how you pursue provision and success. Many people chase money directly, thinking that if they can just get enough of it, all their problems will disappear. They wake up every day focused on income, survival, and immediate needs, driven by pressure and fear. But desperation creates a narrow vision. It forces you to think short-term, to grab whatever is available, and to operate from a place of urgency rather than clarity. In that state, you may earn something temporarily, but you struggle to build anything lasting. Purpose, on the other hand, expands your vision. It shifts your focus from simply making money to creating value. It asks a different question, not how can I get money, but what can I offer that is meaningful, impactful, and needed. This question changes your direction because money is not the starting point, it is the result. When you focus on purpose, you begin to identify your strengths, your skills, your ideas, and the ways you can serve others. And when you consistently provide value, money naturally begins to flow toward you. Desperation often leads to poor decisions. It pushes people into opportunities that don't align with their strengths or values. It makes them accept less than they deserve because they feel they have no choice. It creates a cycle where you are always reacting instead of building. When you operate from desperation, you are constantly trying to escape problems rather than creating solutions. This mindset keeps you stuck in survival mode, where every decision is about getting through the moment instead of growing into something greater. Purpose breaks that cycle. It gives you direction, focus, and motivation that goes beyond immediate needs. When you know why you are doing something, you are more willing to invest time, effort, and discipline into it. You are not easily distracted because you are anchored in something deeper. This consistency allows you to develop mastery, and mastery is what creates real value. People are willing to pay for solutions, for expertise, for something that genuinely improves their lives. Understanding your purpose requires self-awareness. You must take time to reflect on what you are naturally good at, what problems you can solve, and what you feel driven to do. These answers are not always obvious, and they may evolve over time, but the more you explore and develop your abilities, the clearer your direction becomes. Purpose is not always a single, dramatic revelation. It is often discovered through action, through trying, learning, and refining. When you align with purpose, your work begins to carry meaning. It is no longer just about earning, it is about contributing. This shift changes how you approach everything. You begin to care about quality, about impact, about growth. You are not just looking for quick results, you are building something that has depth and value. And because of that, the results you produce become more consistent and sustainable. Money is attracted to value because value solves problems. The more effectively you can solve a problem, the more valuable you become. This is true in any field, any industry, any level. When you focus on improving your ability to serve, to create, and to deliver results, you increase your worth in the marketplace. This is why people who are purpose-driven often achieve financial success. They are focused on what they can give, not just what they can get. Desperation also affects your energy and how others perceive you. When you are desperate, it shows in your communication, your decisions, and your behavior. People can sense when you are only interested in money, and it often creates resistance. Purpose, however, creates confidence. When you know the value you bring, you communicate with clarity and conviction. You are not trying to convince people. You are offering something that stands on its own merit. Patience is another key difference between purpose and desperation. Desperation wants immediate results, often at any cost. Purpose understands that growth takes time. It is willing to invest in the process, to develop skills, to build relationships, and to create something meaningful. This long-term perspective is what allows you to build stability and consistency in your financial life. You must also be willing to let go of the idea that money alone will fulfill you. Many people chase wealth thinking it will bring happiness, but without purpose, it often feels empty. Purpose gives context to your success. It gives you a reason to grow, to contribute, and to use what you have in a meaningful way. When money is connected to purpose, it becomes a tool, not a goal. Challenges will come even when you are aligned with purpose. There will be moments of doubt, obstacles, and setbacks, but purpose gives you resilience. It reminds you why you started and why it matters. This inner drive keeps you moving forward when things are difficult. It helps you stay committed even when results are not immediate. You must train yourself to shift your focus daily. Instead of waking up thinking only about what you need, begin to think about what you can create, improve, or contribute. Ask yourself how you can add value in your work, in your interactions, in your efforts. This mindset gradually moves you away from desperation and into a position of strength and creativity. As you continue to grow in purpose, you will notice a change in your opportunities. You will begin to attract the right connections, the right ideas, and the right situations. This is not you, it is the result of alignment. When your focus is clear and your efforts are consistent, you create momentum that opens doors. Money follows purpose because purpose produces value, and value creates demand. When you commit to becoming someone who solves problems, who brings solutions, and who consistently improves, you position yourself for financial growth in a way that is stable, meaningful, and sustainable. Activate obedience, not just prayer, because there is a critical difference between asking God for change and actually positioning yourself to experience it. Many people have built a habit of praying passionately, speaking powerful words, and declaring what they desire, yet their lives remain unchanged. Not because prayer is ineffective, but because prayer without obedience becomes incomplete. It creates a cycle where you are constantly asking but never stepping into what is required to receive. Prayer is communication, connection, and alignment with God's will, but obedience is the action that proves that alignment is real. When you pray, you may receive clarity, direction, ideas, or conviction, but if you ignore what follows, you interrupt the process. It is not enough to feel inspired in a moment of prayer. You must translate that inspiration into decisions, habits, and consistent actions. Without obedience, prayer becomes a routine rather than a transformation. Many people want results without responsibility. They want increase without discipline, favor without preparation, and breakthrough without change. This mindset keeps them stuck because it separates spiritual desire from practical action. Obedience closes that gap. It forces you to respond to what you know you should do, even when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. It requires you to act on wisdom, not just acknowledge it. Obedience often begins with small instructions. It may not always be something dramatic or life-changing at first. It could be as simple as managing your time better, being more disciplined with your finances, improving your skills, or stepping into an opportunity you have been avoiding. These small acts may seem insignificant, but they build momentum. They create a pattern of trust and action that leads to greater responsibilities and larger opportunities. One of the biggest challenges with obedience is that it often requires you to move before you feel fully ready. You may not have all the answers, all the resources, or all the confidence you think you need. But obedience is not based on complete certainty. It is based on trust. It is the willingness to take the next step with what you have, believing that clarity and provision will follow. Waiting for perfect conditions often leads to delay, while obedience creates progress. There is also a cost to obedience. It may require you to let go of habits, relationships, or mindsets that are holding you back. It may demand discipline in areas where you have been comfortable being inconsistent. It may challenge your fears, your doubts, and your excuses. But this cost is necessary because growth always requires change. You cannot hold on to what limits you and expect to move forward at the same time. Obedience also develops character. It shapes how you think, how you respond, and how you handle responsibility. When you consistently choose to do what is right, even when it is difficult, you build integrity and discipline. These qualities are essential because they prepare you to handle greater levels of success and influence. Without strong character, even if you receive opportunities, you may not sustain them. Another important aspect of obedience is consistency. One act of obedience is powerful, but repeated acts of obedience create transformation. It is not what you do occasionally that defines your results. It is what you do daily. Consistency turns effort into progress and progress into results. When you build a habit of responding to what you know you should do, your life begins to move in a new direction. Obedience also sharpens your awareness. The more you act on what you sense or understand, the clearer your direction becomes. You begin to recognize patterns, opportunities, and insights more easily because you are engaged in the process. Inaction, on the other hand, creates confusion. When you ignore what you know, your clarity begins to fade, and you become uncertain about what to do next. Many people delay obedience because they are waiting for confirmation, reassurance, or a guarantee of success. They want to be sure that their actions will produce the desired outcome before they commit. But this mindset limits growth because it places conditions on your willingness to act. Obedience is not about having guarantees. It is about being willing to move forward with faith and responsibility. You must also understand that obedience is not always comfortable or easy. It may require effort, sacrifice, and persistence. There will be moments when you feel like stopping, when progress seems slow, or when challenges arise. But these moments are part of the process. They test your commitment and strengthen your resilience. When you push through them, you develop the capacity to handle greater challenges and opportunities. Obedience transforms your prayers into results because it aligns your actions with your intentions. It takes what is internal and makes it external. It moves you from talking about change to actually creating it. This is where real progress happens, not just in what you say, but in what you do consistently over time. You must shift your focus from asking repeatedly to acting intentionally. Instead of praying for the same thing over and over, begin to ask yourself what steps you can take today that align with your desire. What can you improve, adjust, or commit to that moves you closer to your goal? These questions shift your mindset from passive to active, from waiting to building. When you activate obedience, you begin to experience a sense of empowerment. You realize that you are not just waiting for things to happen, you are participating in the process. You become more disciplined, more focused, and more intentional with your time and energy. This shift changes how you approach challenges because you are no longer relying solely on hope. You are combining faith with action. Obedience also positions you for opportunities that you may not have anticipated. As you take action, you enter new environments, meet new people, and gain new experiences. These interactions often open doors that you could not have accessed otherwise. In this way, obedience creates pathways that lead to growth and increase. The more you practice obedience, the more natural it becomes. What once felt difficult begins to feel normal. You develop a mindset that is focused on progress, responsibility, and action. This mindset becomes a foundation for everything you do, influencing your decisions, your habits, and your results. When you combine prayer with obedience, you create a powerful balance. Prayer keeps you connected, focused, and aligned, while obedience moves you forward and produces tangible outcomes. Together, they create a system where your spiritual intentions are supported by practical actions, allowing you to experience growth and progress in a way that is both meaningful and sustainable. Think like a steward, not a seeker, because the way you perceive what you have determines what you are trusted with next. Many people approach money and resources with a seeking mentality, always chasing more, always looking for the next opportunity to gain, but rarely paying attention to what is already in their hands. This mindset keeps them in a constant cycle of pursuit without stability, desire without discipline, and expectation without responsibility. A seeker is focused on acquisition, but a steward is focused on management, growth, and multiplication. When you think like a seeker, your attention is always outward. You believe that what you need is somewhere else, in someone else's hands, in some future moment that has not yet arrived. This creates restlessness and dissatisfaction because you are constantly comparing, constantly chasing, and never fully appreciating or developing what you already possess. You may receive resources, but because your mindset is not grounded in stewardship, those resources often slip away. Without structure, discipline, and intentional management, increase cannot be sustained. A steward thinks differently. A steward understands that everything they have, time, skills, money, opportunities, is a responsibility, not just a possession. This perspective creates a sense of awareness and care. Instead of asking, how can I get more? A steward asks, how can I use what I have effectively? This question shifts your focus from lack to responsibility, from desire to action, from chasing to building. It brings clarity to your decisions because you begin to evaluate everything based on its purpose and potential. Stewardship requires discipline. It means you don't just spend without thinking, waste without noticing, or ignore areas that need improvement. You become intentional about how you manage your resources. This includes your finances, where you track, plan, and make decisions that align with your long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. It includes your time, where you prioritize what matters and eliminate distractions that do not contribute to your growth. It includes your energy, where you invest in activities and relationships that strengthen and develop you. Many people struggle financially not because they lack income, but because they lack stewardship. They receive money, but they do not manage it wisely. They spend without planning, save inconsistently, and avoid making structured decisions. This creates a pattern where no matter how much they earn, it never feels like enough. Without stewardship, increase becomes temporary. With stewardship, even small amounts can grow into something significant. Thinking like a steward also changes how you view opportunities. Instead of waiting for something big to come your way, you begin to maximize what is already available. You develop your skills, improve your work, and take responsibility for your growth. This approach creates momentum because you are constantly building, refining, and improving. Over time, these efforts compound, leading to greater opportunities and increased value. A steward understands the principle of multiplication. It is not just about maintaining what you have, it is about growing it. This requires creativity, effort, and a willingness to learn. You begin to look for ways to increase the value of your resources, whether through investing, developing new skills, or creating additional streams of income. This mindset transforms you from someone who simply uses resources to someone who expands them. Another important aspect of stewardship is accountability. A steward takes ownership of their decisions and their outcomes. Instead of blaming circumstances or external factors, they ask, what could I have done differently? This question creates growth because it focuses on improvement rather than excuses. It empowers you to make better decisions moving forward, knowing that your actions have a direct impact on your results. Gratitude is deeply connected to stewardship. When you appreciate what you have, you are more likely to take care of it. Gratitude shifts your perspective from what is missing to what is present. It creates a sense of responsibility because you recognize the value of what you have been given. This awareness encourages you to manage your resources wisely and to use them in ways that create growth and impact. A steward is also patient. Growth does not happen instantly, and multiplication takes time. Instead of seeking quick results, a steward focuses on consistent progress. They understand that small, disciplined actions repeated over time lead to significant outcomes. This patience allows them to stay committed, even when results are not immediately visible. Thinking like a steward also requires learning. You must be willing to educate yourself about how to manage and grow your resources effectively. This includes understanding financial principles, improving your skills, and staying open to new ideas. Knowledge enhances your ability to make informed decisions, which leads to better results. Your environment and influences play a role in shaping your mindset. If you are surrounded by people who lack discipline or who do not value stewardship, it becomes more challenging to maintain this mindset. But when you connect with individuals who prioritize growth, responsibility, and intentional living, your thinking begins to shift. You are encouraged to improve, to stay disciplined, and to focus on long-term success. A steward also plans for the future. Instead of reacting to situations as they arise, they prepare for what is ahead. This includes setting goals, creating strategies, and making decisions that align with those goals. Planning provides direction and reduces uncertainty because you are not simply moving without purpose, you are moving with intention. You must also be willing to delay gratification. Not every desire needs to be fulfilled immediately. A steward understands that sometimes it is better to wait, to save, or to invest rather than to spend impulsively. This discipline creates stability and allows you to build something meaningful over time. When you shift from being a seeker to a steward, your entire approach to life changes. You become more focused, more disciplined, and more intentional. You stop chasing everything and start building something. You recognize that what you have right now is enough to begin, and through careful management and consistent effort, it can grow into something far greater. Faith requires action, not repetition, because true faith is not measured by how many times you say something, but by how consistently you move in alignment with what you believe. Many people have turned faith into a routine of repeating prayers, declarations, and affirmations, thinking that the power lies in the number of times they say it. They wake up, speak the same words, ask for the same things, and expect different results, yet nothing changes. Not because faith is ineffective, but because it was never meant to function without action. Repetition without movement creates an illusion of progress. It feels like you are doing something because you are speaking, declaring, and engaging emotionally, but in reality, nothing is shifting in your behavior. Faith was never designed to replace action, it was designed to fuel it. It gives you the confidence, the courage, and the clarity to step forward, even when the outcome is not fully visible. Without that step, faith remains internal, never translating into real-world results. When you truly believe something, it begins to influence your decisions. It shapes how you think, how you respond, and what you are willing to do. If you say you have faith for financial growth, but you avoid opportunities, neglect discipline, and refuse to learn or improve, your actions contradict your belief. This disconnect creates frustration because you are expecting results that your behavior does not support. Faith and action must work together to create alignment. Action is the evidence of faith. It is the visible expression of what you claim to believe. When you act, you demonstrate that your faith is not just words, it is conviction. This does not mean reckless or impulsive decisions, but intentional steps that move you forward. It may be applying for an opportunity, starting a project, improving a skill, or making a disciplined financial decision. These actions may seem small, but they are powerful because they break the cycle of passivity. Many people hesitate to act because they are waiting for certainty. They want to be sure that their efforts will succeed before they commit. But faith does not operate on certainty, it operates on trust. It is the willingness to move forward without having every detail figured out. Waiting for perfect clarity often leads to delay, while action creates momentum. As you move, you learn. You adjust and you grow. Repetition can be helpful when it reinforces belief, but it becomes ineffective when it replaces responsibility. Saying something repeatedly without changing your behavior does not create transformation. It can even become a form of avoidance. where you feel productive without actually doing the work required. True faith challenges you to go beyond words and engage with reality. Action also builds confidence. Every step you take, no matter how small, strengthens your belief in your ability to move forward. It shows you that you are capable of creating change. This confidence is not built through repetition alone, it is built through experience. When you act and see results, even small ones, your faith becomes more grounded and more resilient. Fear is one of the biggest barriers to action. It causes hesitation, doubt, and overthinking. It makes you question your ability and focus on what could go wrong. But faith is what allows you to move despite fear. It does not eliminate fear completely, but it reduces its control over your decisions. When you choose to act in the presence of fear, you weaken its influence and strengthen your ability to move forward. Consistency is another important element. One action is not enough to create lasting change. You must develop a pattern of action that aligns with your goals. This means showing up daily, making disciplined choices, and staying committed even when progress feels slow. Consistency turns effort into results. It bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You must also be willing to learn through action. Not every step will produce the exact outcome you expect. There will be mistakes, setbacks, and challenges. But these experiences are part of the process. They provide valuable lessons that help you improve and refine your approach. Without action, you miss these opportunities to grow. Faith-driven action also requires focus. You cannot act on everything at once. You must identify what truly matters and direct your energy toward it. This focus increases your effectiveness because you are not spreading yourself too thin. You are investing your time and effort in areas that have the greatest potential for growth. Another important aspect is discipline. Action is not always exciting or easy. There will be days when you do not feel motivated, when progress seems slow, or when challenges arise. Discipline is what keeps you moving during those times. It ensures that you continue to act even when your emotions are not aligned. This consistency is what produces long-term results. You must shift your mindset from waiting to acting. Instead of asking, when will things change? Begin to ask, what can I do today to move forward? This question empowers you because it focuses on what is within your control. It turns your attention from external circumstances to internal responsibility. As you begin to act, you will notice changes in your perspective. You will become more aware of opportunities, more confident in your decisions, and more resilient in the face of challenges. This transformation is not the result of repetition alone. It is the result of combining belief with movement. Faith becomes powerful when it is expressed through action. It moves from being an idea to becoming a force that drives your life forward. It shapes your habits, your decisions, and your results. It allows you to step into opportunities, overcome obstacles, and create progress in a way that is tangible and measurable. When you stop relying solely on repetition and start embracing action, you break the cycle of stagnation. You move from hoping things will change to actively creating that change. You begin to see results not because you said more, but because you did more, aligning your behavior with your belief and turning your faith into something that produces real outcomes. Unlock what God has already given, because the greatest mistake many people make is constantly searching for something outside of themselves while ignoring what has already been placed within them. There is a tendency to believe that the answer is somewhere far away, another opportunity, another connection, another miracle that has yet to arrive. But in many cases, the foundation for your growth, your provision, and your progress is already in your hands, waiting to be recognized, developed, and activated. You have been given abilities, skills, ideas, and opportunities that may seem small or insignificant, but they carry potential. The problem is not the absence of resources, it is the lack of awareness and development. When you overlook what you already have, you delay your own progress, you begin to depend on external change instead of internal activation. This mindset keeps you waiting, hoping for something new, instead of working with what is already available. Unlocking what you have begins with recognition. You must take time to evaluate your strengths, your experiences, and your capabilities. What can you do well? What have you learned? What resources are already within your reach? These questions help you shift your focus from lack to potential. You begin to see that you are not starting from zero, you are starting with something that can be built upon. Many people underestimate their own value because they are comparing themselves to others. They see someone more experienced, more successful, or more advanced, and they assume that what they have is not enough. But comparison distorts your perspective. It makes you ignore your unique position and focus on someone else's journey. What you have may not look like much now, but when developed and applied consistently, it can grow into something significant. Development is the next step. What you have must be improved, refined, and strengthened. Skills can be learned, knowledge can be expanded, and abilities can be sharpened. This requires effort, discipline, and a willingness to grow. You cannot expect maximum results from undeveloped potential. The more you invest in improving what you have, the more valuable it becomes. Action is what unlocks potential. It is not enough to recognize and develop. You must apply. Many people gather knowledge, build ideas, and prepare endlessly, but never take the step to execute. This creates a gap between what is possible and what is experienced. Action bridges that gap. It turns ideas into results, potential into progress, and preparation into performance. Fear often prevents people from unlocking what they have. It creates doubt, hesitation, and overthinking. You may question whether you are good enough, whether your idea will work, or whether the effort is worth it. These thoughts can stop you before you even begin. But growth requires movement despite uncertainty. You do not need perfect confidence, you need the willingness to start. Consistency is what transforms small beginnings into significant outcomes. You may not see immediate results, and that can be discouraging. But every action you take is building something. Every effort you make is moving you forward. Over time, these small steps compound, creating momentum that leads to noticeable progress. Another important aspect is responsibility. You must take ownership of what you have been given. This means no more excuses, no more waiting, no more blaming circumstances. You have something in your hands right now, and it is your responsibility to use it. When you accept this, you move from a passive mindset to an active one. You stop waiting for change and start creating it. You must also be willing to adapt and learn as you go. Not every attempt will succeed, and not every idea will work as planned. But these experiences are valuable. They teach you what works and what does not. They help you improve and refine your approach. Without action, you miss these lessons, and your growth is limited. Your environment can either support or hinder your ability to unlock what you have. If you are surrounded by negativity, doubt, or discouragement, it becomes harder to move forward. But when you place yourself in an environment that encourages growth, learning, and action, your mindset begins to shift. You become more motivated, more focused, and more willing to take steps. Discipline plays a key role in this process. You must commit to working on what you have consistently, even when you do not feel like it. There will be days when motivation is low, when progress seems slow, or when challenges arise. Discipline keeps you moving during those times. It ensures that you continue to invest in your growth regardless of your emotions. You must also be willing to let go of the belief that you need more before you can start. This belief creates delay because it convinces you that your current resources are not enough. But growth does not begin when you have everything. It begins when you use what you have. As you use it, it grows. As you apply it, it expands. Focus is important because it directs your energy toward what matters most. You cannot unlock everything at once. You must identify what has the greatest potential and commit to developing it. This focus increases your effectiveness and allows you to make meaningful progress. As you begin to unlock what you have, you will notice a shift in your confidence. You will start to see results even if they are small at first. These results reinforce your belief in your ability to create change. They motivate you to continue to improve and to push further. Opportunities often come as a result of what you are already doing. When you take action and develop your abilities, you position yourself in a way that attracts new possibilities. People begin to notice your effort, your growth, and your value. This creates connections and openings that would not have existed if you had remained inactive. You must train yourself to see potential instead of limitation. This shift in perspective changes how you approach challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles, you begin to see opportunities to grow, to learn, and to improve. This mindset keeps you moving forward, even when things are difficult. Unlocking what God has already given is not about waiting for something new. It is about activating what is already present. It is about recognizing, developing, and applying your abilities in a way that creates progress. When you commit to this process, you move from a place of waiting to a place of building, from a mindset of lack to a mindset of possibility, And from potential that is hidden to potential that is actively shaping your life, discipline attracts divine provision because discipline creates the structure that allows blessings to stay, grow, and multiply. Many people desire increased favor and financial breakthrough, but they overlook the role that discipline plays in sustaining what they receive. Without discipline, even when opportunities come or money flows in, it quickly disappears. This is not because provision is unavailable, but because there is no system in place to manage it effectively. Discipline is the ability to do what is necessary, even when it is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or repetitive. It is not driven by emotion or temporary motivation, but by commitment and purpose. When you develop discipline, you create consistency in your actions, and consistency is what produces results over time. Without it, your efforts become scattered, your progress becomes unstable, and your outcomes become unpredictable. Many people rely on motivation, but motivation is temporary. It comes and goes depending on how you feel. Discipline, however, remains steady. It ensures that you continue to act even when you are tired, distracted, or discouraged. This stability is what allows you to build momentum. Small, disciplined actions repeated daily create a foundation that supports growth and increase. In the area of finances, discipline is essential. It determines how you earn, spend, save, and invest. Without discipline, money is handled impulsively. Decisions are made based on immediate desires rather than long-term goals. This leads to a cycle where income may increase, but stability does not. Discipline changes this pattern by introducing intentionality. You begin to plan, to track, and to make decisions that align with your vision for the future. Discipline also affects how you use your time. Time is one of the most valuable resources you have, yet it is often wasted through distraction, procrastination, or lack of focus. When you are disciplined with your time, you prioritize what matters. You invest your energy in activities that contribute to your growth, your skills, and your opportunities. This intentional use of time creates progress and opens doors that would otherwise remain closed. Another important aspect of discipline is self-control. It is the ability to manage your impulses, your emotions, and your reactions. This is especially important when faced with challenges or temptations. Without self-control, it is easy to make decisions that provide temporary satisfaction but lead to long-term consequences. Discipline allows you to pause, to think, and to choose actions that align with your goals rather than your immediate feelings. Discipline is also closely connected to preparation. Many people pray for opportunities, but when those opportunities come, they are not ready. They lack the skills, the knowledge, or the structure needed to take full advantage of them. Discipline ensures that you are consistently preparing, learning, and improving. It positions you to recognize and seize opportunities when they appear. Consistency in discipline creates trust both in yourself and in how others perceive you. When you are consistent, you become reliable, you follow through on your commitments, you complete what you start, and you maintain a standard of excellence. This reliability builds confidence and opens doors because people are more willing to trust and invest in someone who demonstrates discipline. Discipline also helps you navigate challenges. Life will not always be easy, and there will be obstacles, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. Without discipline, it is easy to give up or lose focus during these times. But when you are disciplined, you continue to move forward even when progress feels slow. This persistence allows you to overcome difficulties and continue building toward your goals. You must also understand that discipline is developed, not inherited. It is a skill that is built through practice and repetition. It starts with small decisions, choosing to complete a task, to stay focused, to manage your resources wisely. Over time, these small choices become habits, and those habits shape your character. As your discipline grows, so does your capacity to handle greater responsibilities. Your environment can influence your level of discipline. If you are surrounded by distractions, negativity, or people who lack focus, it becomes more challenging to stay disciplined. But when you create an environment that supports your goals, one that encourages focus, growth, and accountability, you increase your chances of maintaining consistency. Discipline requires sacrifice. You will need to give up certain comforts, habits, or activities that do not align with your goals. This may feel difficult at first, but it is necessary for growth. You cannot hold on to everything and still move forward. Sacrifice creates space for progress and allows you to focus on what truly matters. Another key element is accountability. You must be honest with yourself about your actions and your progress. It is easy to make excuses or to justify a lack of discipline, but this prevents growth. When you hold yourself accountable, you take ownership of your decisions and commit to improving where needed. Discipline also brings clarity. When you are consistent in your actions, you begin to see patterns and results more clearly. You understand what works and what does not. This clarity allows you to make better decisions and to adjust your approach as needed. Without discipline, your efforts are too inconsistent to produce clear insights. You must shift your mindset from seeking quick results to building long-term success. Discipline is not about immediate gratification. It is about creating a foundation that supports sustained growth. This requires patience, commitment, and a willingness to stay consistent even when results are not immediately visible. As you develop discipline, you will notice changes in your confidence and your outlook. You will feel more in control of your actions and your direction. You will begin to trust your ability to follow through and to create results. This confidence strengthens your commitment and encourages you to continue improving. Discipline attracts divine provision because it demonstrates readiness. It shows that you are capable of managing what you receive. When your actions reflect consistency, responsibility, and intentionality, you create an environment where growth can occur. You position yourself to handle opportunities, to sustain increase, and to build something that lasts. Turning discipline into a powerful force that supports every area of your life. Speak with authority, not fear, because the words you release carry power that can shape your reality. Many people pray, declare, or speak affirmations, but their words are often laced with hesitation, doubt, or uncertainty. When you speak from fear, your words reflect limitation instead of possibility. Fear diminishes your impact because it communicates a lack of belief, not just to yourself, but to the spiritual atmosphere around you. Speaking with authority requires confidence, clarity, and a mindset that is aligned with what God has promised you. Authority comes from understanding your identity and position. As a believer, you have been given access to God's power, provision, and wisdom. You are not approaching life as a passive observer waiting for something to happen. You are stepping into a role of influence where your words carry weight. Speaking with authority is not arrogance, it is acknowledgement of the position you hold and the resources you have at your disposal. When you internalize this truth, your words naturally carry conviction and purpose. Fear, on the other hand, creates hesitation. It causes you to speak tentatively, question your own statements, and doubt the outcomes you are seeking. This hesitation undermines faith because it signals uncertainty to both the spiritual realm and your own mind. When you speak with fear, you are essentially limiting what God can do through you because the words you release are inconsistent with the promises you are claiming. Authority removes this limitation because it aligns your speech with conviction, confidence, and belief. Authority is developed through knowledge and understanding. You cannot speak with authority about something you do not comprehend. This requires studying God's word, understanding the principles of faith, and knowing your rights and responsibilities as a believer. Knowledge empowers you to articulate your declarations with clarity, making your words resonate with power. When you speak from a position of understanding, your words become catalysts for action rather than passive statements. Confidence is essential when speaking with authority. It is the inner assurance that what you are declaring aligns with truth and that it has the potential to manifest. Confidence does not mean expecting everything to happen exactly as you want instantly, but it does mean trusting that your words are backed by divine power. Fear diminishes confidence, but authority reinforces it by reminding you that God's promises are trustworthy and that your declarations are effective when aligned with His will. Speaking with authority also requires intention. It is not enough to make statements without focus or purpose. Your words must reflect what you genuinely believe and what you are ready to act upon. Authority communicates certainty. It is precise, purposeful, and unwavering. Fear communicates doubt. It is scattered, hesitant, and insecure. When you cultivate intention in your speech, you create alignment between your inner conviction and outward expression. Repetition can strengthen your authority if used correctly, but repetition without belief reinforces fear. Many people recite affirmations mechanically, hoping that saying them multiple times will override doubt. However, if the underlying emotion is fear, repetition only reinforces a cycle of insecurity. True authority comes from speaking with conviction in the present moment, letting your words reflect certainty, knowledge, and trust in the outcome. Your environment can influence how effectively you speak with authority. If you are surrounded by doubt, negativity, or criticism, it can erode your confidence. Surrounding yourself with encouragement, examples of faith in action, and supportive individuals helps reinforce the mindset necessary for authoritative speech. Your environment should amplify your voice, not diminish it. Another key element is consistency. Speaking with authority is not a one-time effort, it is a lifestyle. It involves consistently aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and words with truth and purpose. Every time you speak with confidence, you reinforce your position and strengthen your ability to influence outcomes. Consistency builds momentum, shaping both your inner mindset and the external results you experience. Obedience amplifies authority. When your words are backed by actions, they carry greater weight. People, situations, and even spiritual forces respond more readily when your declarations are consistent with your behavior. Speaking with authority is not just about what you say, it is about demonstrating integrity and alignment in every area of your life. Actions validate words, turning them from mere statements into powerful instruments for change. Authority also requires courage. Fear often surfaces because you are stepping into the unknown or claiming something that has not yet manifested. Courage is the willingness to speak your declarations regardless of uncertainty, trusting that the principles of faith are greater than the obstacles you face. This courage transforms your speech from tentative hope into confident proclamation. You must learn to control the inner dialogue that fuels fear. Many people let doubt dominate their thoughts, questioning whether their words matter or if their declarations will be effective. Speaking with authority starts internally. Your mind must be aligned with your belief, free from hesitation and uncertainty. When your inner thoughts reflect confidence, your outward words naturally carry power. Faith strengthens authority. When you believe in what you are speaking and trust in God's promises, your words become a reflection of that faith. Fear undermines authority because it signals a lack of trust. Speaking with authority communicates trust, belief, and certainty, which in turn activates the spiritual dynamics that support manifestation. Your speech becomes a channel through which divine provision and favor flow. Authority transforms how others perceive you. When you speak with confidence, clarity, and alignment, people listen differently. Your words carry weight, influence, and credibility. Fear, however, makes you appear unsure, which diminishes your impact. Speaking with authority changes not just the spiritual dynamics, but also your relational and professional effectiveness, creating opportunities that were previously inaccessible. Intentional focus on the principles behind your declarations increases the effectiveness of your speech. Knowing what to claim, how to claim it, and why it aligns with truth gives your words direction. Without this focus, your speech may be scattered, inconsistent, or ineffective. Authority arises from deliberate, informed, and confident articulation of your faith and your goals. When you learn to speak with authority, you position yourself to receive what God has already promised. Your words no longer reflect uncertainty, they reflect expectation. Your speech becomes a tool for shaping reality, opening doors, and influencing outcomes. Authority releases power because it aligns belief, knowledge, action, and speech into a cohesive force that moves both spiritual and practical forces in your favor. Act in faith, not fear, because the difference between progress and stagnation is determined by whether you step forward in trust or hold back in hesitation. Many people want breakthroughs, provision, and growth, but they allow fear to dictate their actions. Fear causes delay, doubt, and indecision. It convinces you to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect alignment, but these conditions rarely exist. Faith, on the other hand, moves first and trusts that the path will be illuminated as you step forward. Action rooted in faith transforms potential into reality. Fear is a powerful barrier because it operates in your mind before it even touches your circumstances. It whispers doubts about your ability, your worthiness, or your preparedness. It questions whether what you are pursuing is achievable. When you allow these thoughts to dominate, you remain passive, hoping that something outside yourself will shift. But waiting without action rarely produces results. Faith requires that you move even when the full picture is not visible, even when certainty is absent. Each step taken in faith weakens fear and strengthens your capacity to create momentum. Action demonstrates trust in God's promises. When you act, you are essentially saying, I believe what God has said is true, and I am willing to participate in bringing it to manifestation. Faith without action is incomplete because it remains internal. It exists only in thought or declaration. True faith expresses itself through consistent steps, decisions, and behaviors that align with what you claim to believe. These actions validate your belief, making it tangible and effective in your life. Many people confuse planning with action, thinking that preparation alone is enough. While preparation is important, it cannot replace the necessity of movement. Overplanning without execution becomes a trap of indecision. Fear thrives in analysis, constantly finding reasons to delay. Faith-based action cuts through this cycle. It is the willingness to implement, adjust, and learn along the way. Movement creates momentum, and momentum generates results that theory alone cannot produce. Discipline supports action in faith. Moving in faith often requires perseverance, commitment, and consistency. You will encounter obstacles, setbacks, and discouragement along the way. Discipline ensures that you continue acting even when motivation falters. Consistent effort, even in small increments, compounds over time, producing tangible breakthroughs. Without discipline, even faith-driven actions can become sporadic and ineffective, reducing your potential to experience lasting results. Action requires clarity and focus. You must know what you are pursuing, why it matters, and how to approach it. Direction provides the energy and determination needed to overcome fear and obstacles. Without focus, your steps can become scattered, leading to wasted effort and frustration. Clear objectives aligned with faith amplify the impact of your actions and ensure that each movement contributes to the desired outcome. Fear often disguises itself as practicality. You may rationalize inaction by convincing yourself that you are waiting for more resources, more information, or better timing. This mindset creates a false sense of safety, but in reality, it is a form of spiritual stagnation. Faith requires the courage to act with what you have in the moment, trusting that the necessary resources and opportunities will be provided as you move. This willingness to act in uncertainty distinguishes those who experience breakthroughs from those who remain stuck. Small actions build confidence and momentum. You do not have to wait for the perfect, large-scale opportunity to start. Even modest steps, when taken consistently, create measurable progress. Each act of faith reinforces belief, strengthens resolve, and develops the habits necessary for sustained growth. Momentum grows with each step, and over time, what seemed impossible becomes achievable. Faith multiplied by action produces results far greater than words or intentions alone. Accountability enhances action in faith. Surrounding yourself with individuals who encourage, challenge, and hold you responsible increases the likelihood of follow-through. Accountability provides external reinforcement to complement your internal commitment. It prevents procrastination, maintains consistency, and ensures that your faith is not merely theoretical but actively engaged in producing results. When combined with disciplined action, accountability accelerates progress and magnifies outcomes. Action also requires adaptability. Not every step will produce the desired result immediately. Challenges, delays, or unexpected circumstances may arise. Faith-driven action is flexible. It adjusts, pivots, and learns from setbacks rather than being paralyzed by them. Each adjustment is a response informed by trust, not fear. Adaptability ensures that you remain engaged in the process, refining your approach without losing momentum or belief. Visualization and belief amplify action. Seeing yourself succeed, imagining the fulfillment of your goals, and trusting the promises you claim energize your steps. Faith gives you the courage to act, and visualization provides the clarity to direct that action effectively. Together, they transform abstract hope into focused movement that produces tangible outcomes. The combination of belief and movement turns obstacles into opportunities and potential into reality. Action and faith aligns your inner convictions with external results. When you consistently take steps guided by trust, your life begins to reflect your beliefs. Opportunities, resources, and breakthroughs start to manifest as a direct response to your engagement. Fear diminishes as you see progress unfold, and confidence increases as you experience the evidence of your participation in the process. Faith without action leaves you waiting. Action without faith leaves you uncertain. Together, they create unstoppable momentum. You must also prioritize intentionality in your steps. Every decision, every movement, Every effort should reflect the principle of alignment between what you believe and what you do. Random or inconsistent actions do not yield significant results. Intentional, faith-based action ensures that your energy, time, and resources are invested where they can produce the most meaningful outcomes. This intentionality transforms your daily choices into cumulative progress that advances you toward your goals. Action in faith teaches resilience. Obstacles are inevitable, but each step you take strengthens your capacity to persist. You learn to navigate difficulty, handle challenges, and maintain momentum under pressure. Fear loses its grip as experience proves your ability to act successfully despite uncertainty. Each completed step builds confidence, reinforces belief, and solidifies the foundation for greater breakthroughs. Stepping out in faith positions you to receive what God has already promised. Opportunities, resources, and favor are often contingent upon your willingness to act. Waiting passively for change leaves you dependent on external circumstances. Acting with faith demonstrates readiness, accountability, and alignment, inviting the manifestation of provision and progress. Faith combined with action creates a rhythm where your movement activates the power already at work. Transforming potential into reality, master your mindset, not circumstances, because the way you think determines how you respond to life, interpret opportunities, and ultimately experience success. Many people wait for external conditions to change before they believe they can move forward. They look at the economy, the market, other people's resources, or the obstacles around them and let these factors dictate their decisions and emotions. The truth is that circumstances will always fluctuate, but your mindset is the controlling factor that shapes how you navigate those fluctuations and create results. Your mindset is the lens through which you interpret everything. If you view situations with fear, doubt, or scarcity, you will respond reactively and miss opportunities. If you view situations with faith, clarity, and abundance, you will respond proactively and identify paths that others overlook. Mastery of mindset is not about denying reality. It is about controlling how you perceive it, how you internalize it, and how you act in response. Your thoughts set the stage for your actions, and your actions determine your outcomes. Many people allow external circumstances to dominate their thinking. A delayed payment, a job setback, or